Nothing like a little gospel to rock you. So come on, children, let's sing about the goodness of the Lord, which is the title of my talk this morning. At the time when the big book was written, lords were people who held positions of power. And metaphysically, Lord represents the law. So Mother Nature and all of creation is governed by these immutable laws. Ignorance of them doesn't excuse us from their effects. For instance, if you decide that you're going to ascend by jumping off of a building, unless you have the power to mimic a bumblebee who flies when the body is too heavy and the wings are too small, undoubtedly you're going to fall to the earth. And Western religions tend to put the divine outside of the earthly world in the heavens above, where he has been called God. I love how he's about 12 syllables when they say it on television. Where he dictates a set of rules that we're supposed to abide by. If we take these rules literally and we follow them without question, which is really the primary precedent of our collective consciousness, the marriage of science, religion, and spirituality that we study using the science of mind principles will undoubtedly, inevitably wind up filing for divorce. So for me, these rules are not from God. They're man-made. And if we are to override this collective reality to create a new earth, our old consciousness needs to be released. And collective empowerment needs to be embraced. Because things are changing so rapidly right now, getting comfortable with a certain set of rules is no longer going to work. We are not victims of these changing energies, but rather we are pure conduits of them. So spirituality is no longer just on Sundays. It's every day, all the time, right here, right now, and forevermore. Joseph Campbell tells us that it is through life that one is to experience the Spirit, communicate the Spirit, and live in the Spirit. So how do we recognize that God is actually within each of us? It's story time. When a woman seeking guidance came to Sri Ramakrishna, the great Indian Hindu teacher of the last century, Master says, and she says to the Master, I've had to admit to myself that I don't love God. I've tried to, but that's not where my love is. Sri Ramakrishna asks, is there nothing in the world that you do love? The woman answers, yes, I love my little nephew. And he says, there God is. In your service to this child, you are in service to the Spirit that lives in that child, which is the divine. So if we attempt to define the divine in any fixed image, or we believe that our tradition is the only way, we automatically separate ourselves from our brothers and sisters. Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, his personal vision was to remain open at the top. And I've actually adopted that vision for myself as well. I don't know everything there is to know, and I don't want to know everything there is to know because life would be really boring. So the only bondage we can really experience as human beings is a result of our own ignorance of the nature of the universe. So how do we go about getting a realization of God? Well, how about stretching your spiritual muscle? How about practice, practice, practice? Override the lower realities. Create new ones that empower you. Be grateful for whatever shows up while you're in the process. Remember that what you resist persists. So it's important to get in alignment with the divine will. If you feel resistance, you're probably doing something bass-ackwards. When our creative energy is released into the universe, little packets of wholeness form, called quantums, and they move endlessly in and out of a little shape called the torus. And the torus is open in the center, and they connect through consciousness. Go figure. Side by side and center to center in response to the heart, not the brain. So there is a divine spark within each of us that wants to illuminate. And the emanation of love from the heart is where it all begins. Sandra Walter, who's my ascension coach, says that in unifying, we synchronize and raise our service to the next level. You've heard that saying, where two or more are gathered, there I am. This is why we are so effective with our outreach community, because our heart is in it and we believe in it. So this is a moment of cosmic choice. Can we give up our agenda? Can we let go of the need to control? Can we release our belief in betrayal, whatever you're working on? Can we find the loving path to what Barbara Marx Hubbard calls the New Jerusalem? If we do what our parents and our friends expect us to do, how are we going to follow our own star? How are we going to answer the questions? Where is God? Who is God? What is heaven? Remember the movie Groundhog Day? Bill Murray keeps waking up in the same place over and over and over again. That's what's happening with the old earth. It just keeps waking up over and over and over again. Why? Because we haven't embodied a new belief system at depth. The Great Spirit wants to experience itself, and it does that by means of each of us. It's all about God's great rich reward and how it guides our footsteps every day. So we stand at the threshold of becoming Homo Universalis. That is a universal humanity that cooperates with one another to overcome hunger, dis-ease, disharmony, unemployment, and even death. It's important to begin sharing ideas of what's working, focusing on the positive, and standing in the power of who we are as spiritual beings. Only we have the power to change our thinking, to transform our subjective belief systems, to create a world that works for everyone. That is the global vision of our organization. Transformation of the whole body of humankind into a planet of people who consciously choose to use their power to raise the vibration, to create an opening for the possibility of heartfelt peace. Joseph Campbell says that God is a personification of that world, creative energy and mystery, which is beyond thinking and beyond naming. My mama used to say that Christianity was a way of life. And I was on sabbatical at the cabin in North Carolina, and she was with me, and I was planting daffodils to remind me of meditation that we were doing at the center in Naples, and she was watching the clock so that I would plant them at the same time that our meditation began, because I wanted the symbology of that. And I'm not sure who was more shocked, she or I, when she told me that she didn't believe that there was a God up in the sky. And she proceeded to tell me, all of her belief system. And when she was finished, I looked at her and I said, Mama, you and I think alike. And I really don't know if it was she or I who was more shocked. Whether you call it God, Buddha, Allah, I don't care what you call it. What I know is that when you do call it, it responds. And the divine creative feminine within you moves. Mahalia just sang about it in the song. The Lord Almighty has brought us out. There's none like him, I would say her, without a doubt. As long as we are in alignment with that law, no thing can get in our way. Science has proven that the heart, not the brain, fuels the electromagnetic power of creation. 5,000 to 1 and 100 to 1, electric and magnetic. So if our hearts approve, guess what's going to happen? The earth is going to move. If the energy moving through us is blocked by our beliefs, we don't feel any connection to the power in the presence. Dis-ease, dysfunction, disharmony are all going to manifest through us. What happens in the mind affects the body. The body supports the soul, and the soul is what connects us to Source. So building our spiritual muscle through daily practice, affirmations, prayer, commercial break, joy of meditation seminar this afternoon, whatever opens your heart to unconditional love, whatever expands your greater conscious connection to Source. So engage that connection, the mind, the body, the spirit, and the emotions. And when you find a center in what you do that has heartfelt meaning for you, then you have found the goodness of the Lord. Thank you, and namaste.